Greetings! Mantoray79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is V standard formats, Kagero's Dragonic Lawkeeper. Alrighty then, let's get started. For the main deck, we begin with the starting unit. Starting unit, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Starting unit, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Like any other starting unit in the V standard format, it features only one skill. When written on top of, you may draw a card, and if you're the second to ride to Grade 1 during the fight, you may also add a quick shield to your hand. And with that, we just about covered the deck's starting unit. Next, let's get on to the Grade 1 lineup. And now for the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1s in this deck, we have 4 Lava Flow Dragons, 4 Flame of Hope Eremos, and 4 Wyvern Strike Membois. The Grade 1 Lava Flow Dragon, its skills are: the first skill, when written or called, you may check the top 5 cards to your deck for a Grade 3 and add it to your hand. And if a Grade 3 was added to your hand by this unit's skill, you must then discard 1 card from your hand as a cost. So for this first skill, it more or less makes Lava Flow a basic Grade 3 searcher for the Cardfight Vanguard V standard formats Kagero decks. For as long as you don't mind discarding 1 card afterwards, it'll help you increase your chances of getting a specific Grade 3 you wish to ride to, or giving you a Grade 3 to ride to in case you fail to get any in your starting hand. And the second skill of Lava Flow, as a Vanguard or a Rear Guard, during your turn, if you have more Rear Guards than your opponent, your Rear Guard or Vanguard Lava Flow gets plus 5,000 power. So if this second skill, Lava Flow can serve as either a 13,000 power attacker from the front row or a 13,000 power booster from the back row, as long as you manage to clear out your opponent's field of Rear Guards beforehand. The Grade 1 Flame of Hope Eremo, its skills are: the first skill, when boosting, this unit gets plus 3,000 power until the end of the battle. So if the first skill, Eremo can serve as a 11,000 power booster from the back row. And the second skill of Eremo, whenever your opponent's rear guard is retired, you may retreat Eremo from your own rear guard. If the cost is paid, you can draw 1 card and countercharge 1. So if you play decks that specialize in wiping out your opponent's rear guards, this skill will help you out, as it can not only let you countercharge 1 to give you more counterblast to work with, but also stock out your hand of extra cards to work with in offensive and defensive situations. The Grade 1 Wyvern Strike Membois, its skill is: as a rear guard, whenever it boosts, if your opponent has no rear guards until the end of the battle, if your opponent wishes to guard from their hand against the boosted attack, they must use 2 or more cards at the same time. So with this skill, as long as you manage to clear your opponent's field of rear guards before making any attacks, the unit that this unit boosts will have its attack have more pressure, seeing as how the opponent will either be forced to guard with more cards in their hand, or to not be able to guard at all if they are unwilling to use the 2 or more cards at a time defense pressure. And of that just about covers the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s in this deck, we have 4 Break Breath Dragons, 4 Torrent Cannon Dragons, and 4 Spillover Dragons. The Grade 2 Break Breath Dragon, its skills are: the first skill, as a rear guard, after this unit's attack, on the turn that you've already managed to retire a rear guard beforehand, you may retreat Break Breath from your rear guard. If the cost isn't paid, you can draw 1 card. So After attacking with Break Breath, as long as you manage to retire an opponent's rear guard beforehand, either by attacking or by skill, As long as you don't mind clearing out Break Breath from your own field, you can use him to let you draw more cards in your hand to either use for hand cost or to guard with later during your opponent's turn. And the second skill of Break Breath, when ridden on top of, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards. And if no rear guards are retired by this unit's skill, you can then draw one card instead. So for the second skill, it's mainly used as a Vanguard. If you're fortunate enough to ride Break Breath Dragon as your grade 2 Vanguard, and when it's time to ride to grade 3 on top of him, you can have the option of retiring an opponent's rear guard, but also, in the event the opponent has no rear guards to retire, you can instead restock your hand of more cards by drawing thanks to this second skill. So overall, Break Breath is a great card to have in your rear guard and Vanguard if it's two separate skills. Sword Cannon Dragon, grade 2. Its skill is, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, once per turn, you can counterblast one and send a normal unit from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. If the cost has been paid, you can retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards, and after retiring, if you have 4 or less cards in hand, you may draw one. So for this skill, Sword Cannon is a good way to not only clear your opponent's field of rear guards, but also slightly restock your deck with cards in order to avoid decking out. And also, as long as you don't mind having a small hand size when using this unit's skill, you can also increase your hand size with the draw one bonus thanks to this unit's retiring skill. The grade 2 Spillover Dragon, as a rear guard, after the attack this unit was boosted, you may counterblast one and move your rear guard spill over into your soul. If you've done so, you may retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards. So this is more or less like a standard retiring skill for Kagero clan, except it's also a good way to restock your Vanguard with souls for later Soul Blast, as long as you manage to boost this unit from the back row and you're willing to pay for the Counterblast one afterwards, making Spillover a good card to not only retire your opponent's rear guards, but also increase the amount of cards you wish to have in your soul for later Soul Blast costs, like I mentioned before. And with that, just about covered the deck's grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we have 4 Dragonic Lawkeepers, 3 Blazing Flare Dragons, and 2 Fire Rage Dragons. The grade 3 Dragonic Lawkeeper, the main grade 3 to ride this deck. Its skills are: the first skill, as a Vanguard, at the start of each player's battle phase, you may Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 if the cost has been paid. Then, for every 3 of you and your opponent's rear guards in the field, your opponent is forced to choose one of their own rear guards and bind it. Then, at the end of the turn that this unit's skill was played, your opponent can call back the bound rear guard back to their field, but except their auto abilities cannot be activated upon calling. So with this first skill, if you manage to gather a huge number of rear guards in your field and your opponent has done the same, at the mere cost of Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, your opponent will be forced to bind them in either your turn or your opponent's turn in their battle phases, making it a good way to not only wipe out your opponent's field of rear guards during your battle phase, but also giving your opponent fewer attacks or fewer powerfuler attacks to attack you with, making this a very powerful skill for both offensive and defensive strategies. And the second skill of Dragonic Lawkeeper, as a Vanguard, if your opponent has no back row rear guards, all of your units get plus 5,000 power, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and if they have no rear guards, all of your units get additional 5,000 power. This skill is also active during the opponent's turn, so just like this first skill, the second skill is active in either your turn or your opponent's turn. As long as you manage to wipe out your opponent's rear guards beforehand, not only can you give all your units plus 5,000 power, but under the conditions, you can also give an additional 5,000 power, so making it possible to have a total of plus 10,000 power to your Vanguard or all your rear guards during either player's turn. Once again, making Dragonic Lawkeeper a very powerful Vanguard to have as a offensive and defensive measure. The grade 3 Blazing Flare Dragon. Its skills are: the first skill, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 or more cards, then choose one of your opponent's rear guards for each Soul Blast paid for this cost and retire it. Then, If this unit is in the Vanguard circle, and if 5 or more cards were Soul Blasted for this unit's cost, your opponent is forced to remove all their imaginary gift markers from their circles and hand. So if this first skill as a Vanguard or a Rear Guard, it's a good way to clear your opponent's Rear Guards as long as you don't mind Soul Blasting 1 for each Rear Guard which you retire. But if used as a Vanguard and Soul Blasting 5, you can also wipe out your opponent's field of all imaginary gifts, Force and Excel and Protect 2, but also wipe out all the imaginary gift protects in your hand, making this a very powerful skill to wipe out your opponent's offense and defense. And the second skill of Blazing Flare Dragon, as a Vanguard or Rear Guard, when this unit attacks, you may Soul Charge 1, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and if they have no Rear Guards, after the Soul Charge, the attacking Blazing Flare Dragon gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the battle. So this second skill is a good way to not only restock your Vanguard with souls to use for later Soul Blast, but also to give you a 23,000 power attacker from the front row with Blazing Flare Dragon. The grade 3 Fire Rage Dragon, its skill is, as a Vanguard or Rear Guard, when written or called, you may Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. If the cost has been paid, you may send the top card of your deck onto the drop zone, then retire the same number of Rear Guards on your opponent's field as the grade of the dropped card from your deck for this unit's skill. And in the event that no Rear Guards are retired by this unit's skill, you can instead give the Fire Rage who activated this skill plus 1 critical until the end of the turn. So for Fire Rage Dragon is a great card to have as either a Vanguard or Rear Guard, because not only does it skill that you have the potential of wiping out your opponent's Rear Guards, but under the right conditions, you can instead have a plus 1 critical, so a good card to have if you wish to clear your opponent's field of Rear Guards, and also making him a very high damage giving Rear Guard or Vanguard from the front row. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 3 lineup. Next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 4 Angry Horn Dragons, critical triggers. 4 Embodiment of Spear Tars, critical triggers. 4 Wyvern Guard Berees, draw triggers. 2 Dragon Dance Nastasias, heal triggers. And 2 Mother Orc Dragons, heal triggers. The grade 0 Wyvern Guard Beree, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features 1 skill and same effect. When used to guard with, you may discard 1 card from your hand. If the cost isn't paid, then the attack is blocked. The grade 3 Heal Trigger, Heal Guardian, Dragon Dancer Nastasia. Her skills are, the first skill, when used to guard with, if you have not yet ridden to grade 3, you may choose one of 2 effects. The first effect, your Vanguard gets plus 10,000 power till the end of the turn. So if this first effect is more or less a defensive skill to help keep your opponent from rushing you too early before you get the chance to ride to grade 3. For this first effect, the plus 10,000 power will help you stop your opponent from rushing you too early with many front row attacks. The second effect, the attacking unit gets minus 2 critical till the end of the battle. So like the first effect, this second one is more or less a defense skill to stop your opponent from pushing you to having too many damage early in the game by reducing your critical. And the second skill of Nastasia, when called under the Rear Guard circle, if you have no cards in your damage zone, you may place the top card of your deck face up on the damage zone. So if this second skill is a good way to counteract the damage denial strategy. The damage denial strategy is when your opponent keeps you from having any counter blast on your side by not attacking your Vanguard early in the game, thus preventing you from using any effective skills early on and messing up your overall battle strategy. So with this second skill, it'll help you stop that annoying anti-fighting strategy by giving you at least 1 counter blast to work with when you call her into the Rear Guard. And with that, we just about covered the trigger lineup. And now, after having just explained the deck's build and card effects, next let's get started on the deck's main playstyle. So for the main playstyle of this deck, first you just ride normally up to grade 3 and try to make sure that the grade 3 you ride to is the main grade 3 of this deck, Dragonic Lawkeeper. And then try to fill your back row as much as possible with the grade 1 Wyvern Strike Memboss. Then for your rear guards, try to use rear guards to specialize in retiring your opponent's field of rear guards. And then when it's time to go to the battle phase, use either Dragonic Lawkeeper's skill to bind your opponent's rear guards, or in the main phase, use these either Turret Cannon Dragon, Spillover Dragon, Fire Rage Dragon, or Blazing Flare Dragon to clear your opponent's field of rear guards. Then when it's time to attack the battle phase, by clearing your opponent's field of all rear guards, you'll be able to take advantage of Wyvern Strike Memboss's restriction skill. Then when boosting an attack, if your opponent has no rear guards, the attacking unit cannot be guarded with two or less cards. I mean, less than 2 cards. So yeah, that's pretty much the basic skills. First, you ride normally until it's time to go to Dragonic Lawkeeper, then rely on skills to clear your opponent's field like Spillover, Turret Cannon, Blazing Flare, Fire Rage, or even Dragonic Lawkeeper skills. Once your opponent has no rear guards in their field, you can take advantage of the benefits of your opponent having no cards in their rear guards, mainly by using Wyvern Strike Memboss to boost in the back row, and even using the Dragonic Lawkeeper second skill that when your opponent has no rear guards, you can give all your units, including your Vanguard and rear guard, additional power. And also possibly even using Fire Rage's Dragon's skill to +1 critical when there are no rear guards to retire when it's time to use this unit's skill. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck's main playstyle. Ride all the way up until Dragonic Lawkeeper. Try to secure as many Wyvern Strike Membosses in your back row. In your front row, have rear guards that specialize in clearing your opponent's field. And then, when it's time to battle, use Lawkeeper's skill to give all your units a huge boost of power, and use Memboss's skills from the back row to make your attacks almost unstoppable. And yep, that's about it. So that just about explains this deck's main playstyle. And with that, that's just about all the time we have for today. First off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all.